It was another 10-win season for LSU in 2023. We're going to give you our predictions for 2024 here in this video. First, just some thoughts on this LSU team. You've got Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback, a guy who, he hasn't been the guy, but he has experience, starting experience here at LSU, and is shown to be a very solid quarterback. And he's got weapons at wide receiver to throw the ball to. This is going to be one of the better offensive lines, maybe in all of college football. Run game, they've got some talent, but not a ton of proven production. So that's going to be something to watch, because you would like to play to your strengths, and the offensive line, again, being the strength. But you also have a really good passing game as far as quarterback and receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see what this offense looks like. I really don't know if they're going to be more run heavy or pass heavy or balanced, or, we'll see what they look like. On defense, love the linebackers. Love Harold Perkins, of course, and Greg Penn. But the other area is a little bit concerning. Defensive line, I don't think it's going to be great. And secondary could be bad. I mean, it could be pretty bad. The defense was terrible last year. I think they're going to be improved with the new defensive coordinator and some pieces that they've added. But I don't think they're going to be great on defense, but I think they'll be better and maybe at least average. But with the offense that they potentially will have, they don't have to be great on defense. So let's get to it. Vegas has the win total for them at 9.5 wins. They got a pretty favorable SEC schedule, but they do have to play USC and UCLA in the non-conference. But yeah, you look at their SEC schedule, they avoid Texas, they avoid Georgia. So that's the top two teams in the SEC. They avoid both of them. So that's definitely a positive there. Also, they avoid Missouri. So yeah, it worked out pretty well schedule-wise for this LSU team, at least in the SEC. But again, the non-conference pretty tough. But yeah, 9.5 wins. So Vegas definitely respects this LSU team. And I believe they have them about a touchdown favorite over at USC as well. So yeah, Vegas likes LSU. We'll start with that USC game. Sunday night of week 1. Spotlight will be on this one, and it's going to be a great game in my opinion. Expect points. Expect a lot of points, because both defenses really struggled last year, and I don't expect them to be that much better this year. Maybe they're improved, but especially game 1, I don't see them being very good or great defensively. So, you look at the matchups here. LSU's offensive line could really dominate in this game. USC, that's going to be a weakness for them. So you like that for LSU, and really you like everything about the LSU offense versus the USC defense, at least in my opinion. But on the flip side, USC is going to have an explosive passing attack, and LSU is going to, again, have a weakness in the secondary. So both defenses at a pretty big disadvantage. I think this game will be close, but I think LSU will kind of wear them down as the game goes along. I think they're better in the trenches, and they'll win, but expect a close one. And remember, they have lost the last couple of years to Florida State, so in week 1. So, is there something to that? Is Brian Kelly just bad in week 1 games? I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see this one. I wouldn't be surprised if USC pulled off the upset, but I'm going to stick to LSU. You got South Carolina next on September 14th. Road game, tough place to play, very underrated environment there. That, again, is a tough place to play. But this South Carolina team, it just talent-wise, does not match up to LSU. LSU should have a big day in this one. The home field advantage, playing inspired defense, all that for South Carolina maybe keeps this game fairly close. But I think LSU wins it. It is interesting, though. South Carolina has a pretty good secondary. So I think if LSU is going to win this game comfortably, they're going to have to run the football. Going to have to establish a run game in this one. But I'm going LSU. You got UCLA next on September 21st. Home game for LSU. UCLA, I think people are overlooking this team a little bit. They've still got some talent on their roster. They're going to have a passing attack that's pretty good. And I think they'll score in this game. And I actually think this game will be competitive. But LSU, especially playing at home, will be too much. I'm going LSU in this one. They play South Alabama next. That should be a pretty easy win. Gets them to 5-0. Then it's Ole Miss, and this one should be a good one. It was a shootout last year. You can expect a shootout this year. Both defenses maybe improved some from last season, especially I think Ole Miss. But this is a revenge game for LSU. It's one that they really could have won last year. They're playing at home. They're going to be really fired up. Again, it's just going to be back and forth scoring, in my opinion. but I think playing at home, the breaks go their way. It's just something about playing down there in Death Valley. LSU, maybe a turnover late or something, gets them the win. But I'm going Tigers to get to 6-0. Then Arkansas is next. They'll play them on the road. Also, circling back to Ole Miss, they get a bye week before that game, so that's going to be helpful as well. But Arkansas on the road, right between Ole Miss, right before Texas A&M. This is your typical trap game. Arkansas, I think, is going to be better than some people are expecting this year. And so I think this is going to be a dogfight. It usually is. Arkansas probably going to run the football a lot. I know Bobby Petrino is the play caller, but he's going to play to his strengths. And I expect them, to game plan in this one to kind of keep that LSU offense off the field. I think it'll work. I think it'll keep the game close, but I don't think it'll be enough. I think at the end of the day, LSU just too much. They get the win, but close in this one. Then the next week is Texas A&M. They survive against Arkansas, but then, after that, you got to go on the road to play Texas A&M, a talented Texas A&M team that, in my opinion, now has an excellent head coach. Mike Elko did big things at Duke with not a lot of talent. Now he's got a lot of talent, and this game is at Texas A&M. So there's a lot going towards Texas A&M in this one. Their offense is going to be balanced, so I think it's going to be tough for LSU to slow them down. And they've got playmakers and talented players on defense that I think can do enough to make some plays to stop this LSU offense. And I like Texas A&M here. I think the Aggies win at home. Close game, and I think that's going to be the story, really, with USC, UCLA, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M. A lot of close games for LSU. If the breaks don't go their way, they could lose a lot of these games. So it could go the other way, but I think LSU is going to be able to win those games. They play Alabama next. They get a bye week before playing Alabama. Great bye weeks. We get one before Ole Miss, before Alabama. This one should be a good one. You wonder about the passing attack with Jalen Milroe for Alabama. Can they take advantage of the secondary for LSU? LSU has to use Harold Perkins the right way in this game. They didn't last year. 2 years ago they did, and they won. I think they'll learn from that. He will be right on Jalen Milroe all game. So I actually think their defense will play really well in this game. And Alabama's secondary is a little bit of a question mark. So I think LSU is able to pass. Another game that I think will be close, but I really like LSU to win this one at home. Again, tough place to play. We know that. And the matchup here, I like LSU as well. So I'm going Tigers to get to 8-1. Then they'll play Florida the next week on November 16th. This is an interesting matchup here, coming off of an emotional Alabama game. Then you got to go on the road. A Florida team that has a really tough schedule, so they're going to be desperate to get wins anytime they have an opportunity. You look at the matchup here, Florida's going to have a good secondary, and so I think that bodes well for them. They're also going to have a really good run game. And so I think it'll be kind of like that Arkansas game where Florida's going to want to try to run the football, play ball control, and I think they do it. I think they're successful. I think this team is very underrated talent-wise. They're not really that far off from LSU. Graham Mertz, really underrated quarterback. I think he'll make some throws to win this game for Florida. So I'm going with Florida to pull off the upset, and I circle back to the Arkansas game. I really feel like that Arkansas game and that Florida game, one of those two games I think is going to get LSU. I'm going to go with the Florida game, but I think they bounce back the next week against Vanderbilt. Pretty easy win. Then you've got Oklahoma, really good defense, and so you wonder about LSU's offense scoring in this game against, that might be the best defense they play all year, but I think playing at home, they'll make some plays, and their defense, the LSU defense, I think will play well. I think it's a defense that'll get better and better as the season goes along. So I think they put out a good performance here in the final game. They play at home. They play inspired, playing for potentially a playoff spot. LSU beats Oklahoma, but it's very close. And that's the story. Again, I think a lot of close games for LSU, but I think they're going to pull out most of those close games. So 10-2, you would think, gets you in the college football playoff. But I was looking through all my predictions as I get ready to do all these videos. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, give you a little bit of a spoiler. I have 10-2 teams, potentially multiple 10-2 teams, missing the college football playoff because there's going to be too many of them based off of my predictions. So keep that in mind. Again, just because you see 10-2 does not mean you're going to get in the college football playoff. You feel like this schedule probably tough enough, especially playing USC and UCLA in non-conference. But we'll see what it looks like. But again, these are my predictions for LSU. Would love to get yours. Your thoughts on this team, let me know what you think down in the comments below.